All right, in this video, we're going to take a look at systems of equations, elimination method, but we are going to look at level 1 kind of problems. Okay, so take notes. All right, so let's consider this system of equations here. If we graphed each of these equations, we would get this here, and maybe this is a possible solution. So remember, the solution is where they actually intersect. So this is a possible solution, or maybe this is a possible solution, or maybe this one is. If this were a multiple choice question on a test, this would be very difficult to figure out because all three of these solutions are actually possible. Negative 1/2, 8, negative 1/3, 8, negative 1/4, 8. And so we see here that the graphing method kind of fails to give us a precise solution. So we need a better method. We need something that will give us more precision, especially if our graphs are going to be a little sloppy. Okay, so that new method is the elimination method. So it is a really precise way of finding the point where those two lines intersect. Okay, so let's take a look. How does it work? So first of all, you choose to eliminate x or y. You multiply if necessary. This is going to um, come in handy when we start looking at level 2 and level 3 problems, but in level 1, you won't have to do any multiplying. Okay, so you will add or subtract the two equations, and then you're going to solve for the first variable. And once you solve for that first variable, then you're going to substitute it and solve for the second variable. All right, so let's take a look at this example. All right, so when deciding which variable to eliminate, you choose the variable that will cancel when adding the equations. So if we take a look here, if we add these two equations, we see that negative 4 plus 4 is 0. Negative 2 plus 8 is not 0. So these would not eliminate. The x's would eliminate. Okay, so we would go ahead and add these two equations. So negative 4 plus 4 cancels out. Negative 2 plus 8 is 6y. And bring down the equal sign. Negative 12 plus negative 24 is negative 36. Okay, so all we did was add these two equations. Negative 4 plus 4 is 0, so they canceled out. Negative 2 plus 8 is 6y equals negative 12 plus negative 24 is negative 36. Okay, once you add the two equations, then you can solve for the variable. So divide both sides by 6, and we get y equals negative 6. Okay, so now remember, the solution is a point where they intersect, and a point is made up of two coordinates, an x-coordinate and a y-coordinate. And so far, we only have one of those coordinates. We only have the y-coordinate. Okay, so now we have to solve for the other variable. So here, in this case, we have to solve for x. And the way we do that is we take what we solve for right here, which is for y, and we substitute that value into any of the equations in our system. We have these two equations, and we have the solution for y. So all we do is take that number for y and substitute it for y in either one of these. It doesn't matter which one you choose, you'll get the same answer. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use this second equation. You can even try it in the first one as I work this out using the second one, and you will see we will get the same answer. Okay, so 4x plus 8y equals negative 24. So here I'm going to replace the y with negative 6. So I get 4x plus 8 times negative 6 equals negative 24. And then I'm going to go ahead and work this out. 8 times negative 6 is negative 48. And now I can go ahead and solve for x. Okay, add 48 both sides. Okay, and these will cancel. I'm running out of room, so I'm going to go ahead and work this out over here in this empty space. So 4x equals negative 24 plus 48 is 24. And now divide both sides by 4. And we get that x equals 24 divided by 4, which is 6. Okay, so we have the x value and we have the y value. So the point where these two lines intersect is the point 6, negative 6. And make sure that the x value goes first and then the y value goes second. Okay, it's alphabetical order, x and then y. Okay, let's take a look at this example here. So again, you can choose to eliminate x or y. When we look at it here, you really, in these level 1 problems, you really don't have a choice because one of them will cancel and the other one most likely will not. Okay, so if we take a look here, we see that the y's are going to cancel. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and add these two equations together. So 1 plus 2 is 3. 3x, and the y's cancel. We get equals. Adding 11 plus 19, we get 30. So now I can solve for x. So divide both sides by 3, and x equals 10. And again, you're not done here because you only have one of the coordinates. And again, the solution should be an xy point, and we only have the x value. So now solve for the other variable. Solve for y by substituting. We're going to substitute this value of x into one of these equations. Again, it doesn't matter which equation you use, the first one or the second one in the system. I'm going to go ahead and choose to use the first one, x minus y equals 11, which is this first equation here. Again, it doesn't matter which equation you use, you will still get the same answer. All right, so using x minus y equals 11, I'm going to substitute 10 for x right over here. So 10 minus y equals 11, and now I can solve for y. Subtract 10, both sides, they cancel. You get negative y on this side. 11 minus 10 equals 1. Divide both sides by negative 1, and so y equals negative 1. So the point where they intersect is this x, y point 10, negative 1. Okay, so basically elimination method, part 1, you solve for the first variable, and you do that by adding or subtracting the equations. Part 2, you solve for the second variable, substitute your first answer into any of the equations in your system. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Okay, so if we solve for the first variable, we could add these. Okay, go ahead and try this one on your own and then come back and see if you were able to get the same answer that I have here. So go ahead and hit the pause button. Okay, so when you added these equations, the x terms eliminated, and then here we get 9y equals 1 minus 10. 1 plus negative 10 is negative 9. Solving for y, divide both sides by 9. So y equals negative 1. And now we have to solve for x. So choose one of these two equations and substitute negative 1 for the y value. All right, so I'm going to use the first equation. Again, you could use the second equation. You will still get the same answer. Okay, so I will use the first equation, and I will replace the y with negative 1. So negative 6x plus 5 times negative 1 equals 1. Working this out, 5 times negative 1 is negative 5, And now we can solve for x. So add 5 to both sides, and we get negative 6x equals 6. Divide both sides by negative 6, and we get x equals negative 1. So our final answer, alphabetical order, x and then y, will be negative 1, negative 1. Okay, let's take a look at this one. So this one's a little more interesting. So let's go ahead and add these equations and see what happens. If we add these two equations together, negative 2 plus negative 4 is negative 6x, and negative 9 plus negative 9 is negative 18y. And then here we get negative 48. So we see here that nothing got eliminated. The x's did not get eliminated. The y's did not get eliminated. Okay, so what do we do here when nothing gets eliminated? These are level 1 problems, so something should get eliminated when you add the equations or if you subtract. So that's what we're going to do here in this particular case, is subtract, because when we add them, they don't eliminate. So if they don't eliminate when you add, then try subtracting. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and subtract the second equation. And what happens is when you subtract the second equation, the subtraction will change the signs of that second equation. Okay, the first equation will remain the same. Negative 2x minus 9y equals negative 25. And the second equation, the signs get changed because you are distributing the subtraction. So double negative here becomes positive 4x, and double negative over here becomes positive, and double negative over here becomes positive 23. So here, the signs of the second equation, all of them get changed. Okay? If they're negative, they become positive. If they are originally positive, they become negative. Okay? And now you can see here that now they will combine and cancel. We see negative 9 plus 9 will cancel, and then you can solve as usual. Okay, so just remember, if addition doesn't work, just try subtraction, and subtraction will change the signs, and that should allow you to cancel. So these are level 1 problems, so they are relatively easy compared with level 2 and level 3, which we will work on in the coming weeks. If you have any questions, make sure you come up and ask me or you email me.